Stay tuned to Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. I'm Joke Rogers. This is the program News Across Nigeria. The president has named Professor Mahmud Yakubu as the national chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The appointment was consequently approved at the first meeting of the Council of State, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. 5 new national commissioners were also named for the commission. The national commissioners are Mrs. Amina Zakari, Northwest, Dr. Antonia Okosi Simbini, North Central, Alhaji Baba Shetima Afo, that's Northeast, Dr. Muhammad Mustafa Lekki, South-South, and Mr. Shoyebi Ayodeji Solomon, Southwest. The Southeast is set to still have a sitting national commissioner. Meanwhile, Professor Mahmud is a professor of political history and international studies and was the executive secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. He's an expert in guerrilla warfare, terrorism, and counterterrorism. Professor Mahmud will be taking over from the acting chairman of INEC, Mrs. Amina Zakari, who is now a member representing the Northwest Zone. Now we move on to some other stories now. Tribunal Chairman Danladi Umar has adjourned the trial of Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki to November the 5th and 6th, just moments after it initially began. Well, this latest development is to enable the tribunal await the judgment of the appeal court, where Senator Saraki has challenged the jurisdiction of the tribunal to try him for false declaration of assets as Kwara State Governor between 2003 and 2011. Before now, the tribunal had also adjourned till today to begin Senator Saraki's trial for the 13 charges preferred against him by the Code of Conduct Bureau.
It is right that you would recall that we were at the Court of Appeal, wherein we were able to argue the appeal bordering of issues of jurisdiction. It is ideal and tried in law that once issue of jurisdiction is raised, it has to be resolved. More so that the appeal itself had been argued in the Court of Appeal. What to do in the circumstance is to adjourn and await the decision of Court of Appeal. That was my submission. And once judgment is delivered before then, whichever way it goes, we take it up from there. If judgment is not delivered, we'll come back to court and say, look, judgment has not been delivered. We have to maintain our position. That is to say, to await the judgment of the Court of Appeal.
By the defendant, by Mr. Dr. Saraki, is still pending before the Court of Appeal, and that appeal has been heard, and we are all awaiting the decision of the Court of Appeal. And it will have a bearing one way or the other on the proceedings pending before this court, because they are challenging the composition of the tribunal. They are saying that it's only 3 members. 3 members must sit at a time. So, and we have 2 members. So, if the Court of Appeal agree with their case and say at any given time 3 members must sit, which means whatever step we have taken here will be a nullity. So, why is it that we don't just we just have to wait? So it makes sense, so that they are challenging that the composition of the tribunal, to the effect that the 3 members the tribunal as prescribed by the Constitution must sit at a time. We argued this appeal on Friday, and they adjourned it till Monday for judgment. Obviously, the period was too short. Having regards to the lengthy papers filed by the both respondent and the appellant. So they need to reconsider it. If in their own wisdom, struck out the motion for stay and then give us 2 days for judgment. So will it not be out of place for any lawyer to come here and proceed with the trial? It will be out of place. So we need to wait. If they are thinking of 2 days, and we now seek an adjournment for within 15-16 days here, I think it is reasonable.
Well, elsewhere in the South Nigeria, Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel has faulted the petition to the EFCC against the immediate past governor of the state. He says the petition against Godswill Akpabio is based on ignorance and lacks substance. He urged the people of Akwa Ibom State to always verify their facts before making them public.
He could have ignored those petitions because it didn't come from the right person. The right people that are supposed to actually send such petitions will either be the present government or the House of Assembly. But this just came from, an unknown person and being a law-abiding citizen. He said, look, if somebody sends petition to EFCC, he needs to go and clear the air. So he had actually said that immediately he finishes his tribunal matter, he will go himself to look at those petitions. So unfortunately, by the time he got there, he thought it's only one petition. There were four. To sit down and do a official documented position of his own to defend and to actually show a non-substance in most of those petitions. It took him time. And trust Nigerians, at that point in time, it was everywhere that Akpabio had been arrested and detained. He actually drove himself there. You can confirm this from EFCC. And when he did not finish on Friday evening, he offered to go back on Saturday morning. And he went back on Saturday morning and he finished his documentation. And let me say something here. A governor who has done so well, who had built everything that you see on ground, roads, airports, name it, had infrastructure on ground. Believe me, he didn't fetch sand from his father's compound to come and build those things. He used the money that was allocated to the state to do those things.
Meanwhile, the Akwa Ibom State Executive Council is reviewing the activities and performances of the state government in line with its policy thrust. The review is part of the Executive Council meeting, which also resolved to make life more meaningful for the people. Two members of the Akwa Ibom State Cabinet tell us more about the meeting.
In that retreat was in the interest of Akwa Ibom. It was in the interest of ensuring that the industrialization policy of the government achieved the desired results. It was to ensure that Akwa Ibom recorded better pass rate in education. It was to ensure that we have better land management system. All of this were looked at. It was to ensure that we have better financing. Of course, I'm looking inwards as to how we can improve on the state finances to help the funding of projects.
We expect a lot of groundbreaking. Going forward, we expect a lot of understanding agreement to be signed. For instance, as we speak, we are hoping that we are expecting that before the end of 2015, we are going to do a groundbreaking for cocoa, cocoa nuts, palm oil and palm kernel, refinery. That is the first of its kind in entire West Africa. The other one we have is in South Africa and Mozambique. This particular industry is going to give employment to not less than 10,000 Akwa Ibom people directly and indirectly. So this is going to be very major, and it's going to be a major flagship project for the government.
Well, in neighboring Cross River State, President Mahmud Buhari has formally flagged off the construction of a superhighway. The 260-kilometer Obong Nsan Road project in Akampa local government area is an initiative of the Cross River State Governor, Ben Ayade, who wants it to serve as an evacuation route for the Bakassi Deep Seaport. The governor believes that with the federal government support, the multi-billion naira project will be concluded within the first year of his administration.
This dream had a source. This dream had a taproot. That taproot was based on an economic model, the PPP model, the model that will stochastically create an income profile that will not be dependent on the state. But the strategy ultimately is to decouple the state from the dependence of federation allocation. It is our stronghold. With the kind of support you will give to us, we believe that this project ultimately will be a reality.
Given the multiplier effect of these laudable projects are expected to generate in terms of aggregate spin-offs, I want to assure you of my determination as well as the commitment of the federal government to ensure that this road and indeed the seaport runs with a quick completion.
In the meantime, communities in Rivers State ravaged by flood are crying out for help as they also count their losses following an overflow from Orashi River. Over 100,000 persons have been displaced in Akinima, Jankroma and Ubie in Ahuada West local government area after the floodwaters swept through their houses. That's about 50 houses. Now the flood victims are calling on the relevant agencies and humanitarian organizations to come to their aid and help them cope with the situation.
This is Akinima community in Ahuada West local government area in Rivers State. Houses and farmlands in some parts of the community have been submerged by flood. Residents are trying to salvage what is left of their belongings.
The flood has ravaged all our farms, our living. We've been relocated to different places for now. Government has not come to our aid to assist us.
Flood just came unexpected. We are not expecting it. It just came from the bush and the river and took over our residence. And right now we are displaced. I am displaced. My family, everybody, all our belongings is destroyed. But
the National Emergency Management Agency has promised to assist the community.
About 50 houses are from our assessment, about 50 houses are affected and several persons are displaced. We will relate back to our headquarters. We are not only doing that, we are also liaising with the State Emergency Management Agency. And we reach back to the communities.
It's important that the state government takes proactive steps to assist the people of the community. Emmanuel Erey, Channels Television News.
News across Nigeria returns. We move over to more sad news, this time from Lagos State, as 5 people are rescued alive after a 3-story building collapses in Lagos State. Details in a moment.